Chapter 23. Dr. Keyshaw with difficulty. And Keyshaw didn't know how to respond either. Can we use this? Keyshaw asked softly. It should work, Doctor. Xiao nodded. Curved needles are often used in medical sutures, as long as it's sharp enough. It'll do. Keyshaw thought for a moment and then asked the saleswoman, Miss, we don't have any money. Can we trade something with you? Money? The saleswoman stared blankly at Keyshaw, as if trying to understand what money meant. After a long time, she finally spoke. I don't want money. Sleep with me instead. Sleep with you. TXIA's lips trembled slightly. What do you mean? Once we sleep together, we can eat the piglet. The saleswoman's expression turned crazed, and she even started drooling. She then walked to the filthy bed, bent over, patting the space beside her. There was a large dried bloodstain exactly where she was patting. Come on, hurry up, she urged. The saleswoman quickly removed her top. She wore nothing underneath, and her shriveled body was covered in dirt and bloodstains, resembling a skeleton. Tiao Jin remained silent for a long time before elbowing Keyshaw. Why don't you go ahead and take one for the team? Why don't you go? Tish replied angrily. The boss picked you. Tiao Jin said gleefully. Didn't you hear? If you sleep with her, we can eat that piglet in her pot. Plus, the writer needs that fishu to stay alive. You'd be performing a noble deed. Before Keyshaw could respond, the saleswoman seemed to hear Jia Jin's head and turned to him. You can come too. All four of you can come. Huh? Tiao Jin was stunned. What is this madness? Officer Lee finally couldn't hold back anymore, having been a cop for many years. What he was witnessing now was beyond his comprehension. What's your angle here? We're just trying to buy something. Why are you putting yourself out there? The saleswoman's eyes widened, and suddenly she screamed, I want to eat piglet. After shouting, she seemed to remember something and quickly placed the fish line on the bed. She then rushed over to the pot and looked inside. The piglet. It better not be overcooked, she muttered worriedly, picking up a stick and poking around in the pot. Taking advantage of the distraction, Keyshaw quietly walked over to the bed, grabbed the fish line, and handed them to Drive. Xiao, go save him. We'll handle things here. Got it. Xiao replied. Took the fish line outside and found a relatively clean stone. He quickly explained the situation inside to the girls. Sweet, he, a professional, still couldn't comprehend the saleswoman's behavior. Forget it for now. TXIA is right. Let's save him first, Lin Tian said as she took the fishing line and turned back to check on Han Wai Imo. Dao used the stone to scrape off the rust on the fish end, then tried to sharpen it as much as possible. Lin Tian also worked beside him, untangling the fishing line. That should do it, Doctor, Xiao said. After ensuring everything was ready, he turned to Han Wai Imo. I'm going to remove the harpoon and stitch up your wound now. Okay, Han Wai Imo nodded slightly. But we don't have any anesthetic, Dr. Yan, Xiao said with some concern. The pain might be worse than you imagine. It's fine, as long as I survive. Han Wai Imo forced a bitter smile. If the wound doesn't get infected, you should survive. That's good, let's do it. Inside the room, the three men stood behind the saleswoman, watching her poke around the pot. She was completely naked, but the three of them felt no desire at all. They just wanted to run away. Hey, scammer, Tiao Jin whispered. You stole her goods. What if she gets mad later? I don't know. Keyshaw shook his head. Officer Lee remained silent for a moment, then whispered, don't we still have the Dao? Maybe she'll want that. No way, Tiao Jin protested. Yes, please. We risked our lives for that Dao, and now you want to give it to this lunatic. We're saving a life here. As the two argued, the saleswoman slowly turned around. She seemed to relax and walked over to the bed. The fish line that had been there were now gone, leaving an empty spot. She hesitated for a moment, looking at the bed, as if something wasn't right. But soon, she shook her head and said, all right. Sleeping. Which of you three wants to go first? She looked up at the three of them with a slightly dazed expression, then asked, "Wait, wasn't it four? Have there always been just three of you?" "Oh well, three is fine." Yao Jin shook his head. "See, she's crazier than I thought." Kanshaw hesitated for a long time before finally speaking. "We don't want to sleep with you. We just want to buy something." He pulled out a shiny doll from his pocket and placed it next to the saleswoman. "I don't know if this is worth anything, but it's all we have left." Kanshaw figured that people living here would surely recognize the animal masks and must have heard of the doll. Something that had been obtained by risking their lives had to have some value. The saleswoman curiously examined the pearl-like item, then squeezed it a few times. It seemed to have some elasticity, though its material was unclear. To the three men's astonishment, she threw the item into her mouth. With a crunch, she bit down. "Doesn't taste good." She shook her head. "Nowhere near as good as the piglet." The three men stood there in silence, never having expected that something they had risked their lives for would be eaten like a snack. "If you're not going to sleep with me, then just leave." The saleswoman sighed in disappointment. "Someone else will come to sleep with me eventually." Though the situation made no sense to them, at least they could leave now. The three men exited the room, disappointed at having lost it all, only to find that Drive Xiao had already pulled the harpoon out of Han Wai Imo. Blood was gushing from the wound, and Han Wai Imo's face was drenched in sweat. "Help me!" Lin Qing called out. Tiao Jin and Officer Li rushed over to hold down Han Wai Imo's arms and legs. In such extreme pain, a person's body would thrash uncontrollably. Han Wai Imo, "Look at me, doctor," Xiao said sternly. "Do you know who I am?" "Your Drive Xiao." Han Wai Imo gritted his teeth, frowning in pain. "That's right. You need to stay conscious." "Doctor?" Xiao threaded the line through the hook and swiftly pierced Han Wai Imo's skin. Han Wai Imo let out another muffled groan. "Talk to me, Doctor," Xiao said calmly. "Talk about something that interests you to distract yourself." "Something that interests me." Han Wai Imo chuckled weakly. "You're a novelist, right, Doctor? How about talking about your works?"